April 26, 1717. A nor'easter of biblical proportions rages off Cape Cod. In the churning black waters, a ship groans its final protest as its hull is shattered against the rocks. This is the Whydah Galley, groaning not just from the storm, but under the weight of unimaginable riches. The plunder of over 50 ships, tons of gold, silver, and ivory, the richest pirate haul ever assembled, now being reclaimed by the furious sea. And with the ship, the legend of its captain, Black Sam Bellamy, is being swallowed by the waves. A man who styled himself the Robin Hood of the seas, now facing a foe he cannot outfight. But this prince of pirates wasn't born to a throne of gold. His story begins far from the Caribbean, in the humble parish of Hiddesley, Devon. Born into a world of dirt and toil, he was the youngest of 6 children, inheriting nothing but a restless heart. The rigid class structure of 18th century England offered a life of servitude. The sea, however, offered a chance. He yearned for more than mere survival. He craved a life of his own making, a life of freedom, wealth, and glory, and set sail for the new world, chasing a dream. But back on the shores of Cape Cod, a different kind of treasure caught Bellamy's eye. Her name was Maria Hallett, a local beauty whose spirit was as untamed as the Atlantic itself. She was known as the Witch of Wellfleet, not for any dark magic, but for a captivating presence that enchanted the young sailor. However, Maria was born into a world of privilege, the daughter of a wealthy landowner who expected her to marry into status and security. Despite the chasm between their social standing, a passionate romance blossomed. They would meet in secret, dreaming of a future together. But when Bellamy asked for her hand, her parents flatly refused. To them, he was nothing more than a landless, penniless sailor, a fleeting fancy for their daughter, not a suitable husband. Humiliated but undeterred, Bellamy made a solemn vow. He would sail south, seize a fortune from the sea itself, and return a man so wealthy and powerful they couldn't possibly deny him. His first plan was legitimate, if ambitious. He and a group of backers sailed to Florida to salvage the sunken 1715 Spanish treasure fleet. For months, they toiled under the relentless sun, digging for lost galleons buried in the sand. But the ocean gave up little. The dream of returning to Maria was slipping through his fingers. Desperation began to set in. If he couldn't find treasure, he would take it. He convinced his crew to turn to piracy, a faster, more certain path to the fortune he craved. On the high seas, under the black flag, Black Sam Bellamy would not just find riches, he would forge a legend. They called him Samuel Bellamy, but history would remember him as Black Sam. A young English sailor seeking his fortune, he was tall and fearless, forgoing the era's powdered wigs for his own long black hair, a charismatic rebel in the making. But unlike the tyrants who ruled the waves, Bellamy governed his ship as a floating democracy. He saw his crew as brothers, a band of rebels fighting a corrupt world. Plunder was divided equally, and every man had a vote. He famously declared himself a righteous crusader against wealthy merchants. His men adored him, and they called him the Robin Hood of the sea. In the spring of 1717, after a year of spectacular success, Bellamy's destiny converged with a single ship. After a tense 3-day chase, he cornered his ultimate prize, the Whydah Galley, a state-of-the-art vessel. The Whydah was returning from the slave trade, its hold laden with the profits of its grim business, over 4 tons of gold, silver, and hundreds of thousands of coins from around the globe. With the formidable Whydah as his new flagship, Bellamy was the undisputed master of the Atlantic coast. He was the wealthiest pirate in history, and his return to his beloved Maria Hallett was finally within reach. Somber, but the sea is a fickle master. Just 2 months later, as Bellamy sailed north to reunite with Maria, a monstrous nor'easter descended. Blinding rain and hurricane-force winds trapped the ship in a maelstrom off Cape Cod, wrecked upon the very shores he longed to reach. The mighty Whydah, top-heavy with cannon and treasure, was no match for the towering waves. The hull smashed against a sandbar and splintered. Samuel Bellamy, just 28, was dragged into the churning abyss, his fortune becoming his tomb. Of the 146 men aboard, only 2 survived. On shore, they say Maria Hallett's heart broke with the ship. Ostracized for her love of a pirate, she wandered the cliffs, her eyes fixed on the horizon, forever waiting. Her lonely vigil and inconsolable sorrow led the locals to whisper a new cruel name, the Witch of Wellfleet. For over 260 years, the legend was all that remained. Then, in 1984, underwater explorer Barry Clifford made a miraculous discovery. There, buried in the sand, lay the wreck of the Whydah, its story preserved in silence. It remains the only authenticated Golden Age pirate shipwreck ever found, its identity confirmed by the ship's bell, transforming myth into tangible history. And with it, the memory of Black Sam Bellamy resurfaced, the pirate prince who lost the greatest fortune in history for love, swallowed by the sea.